It's your Dockmaster Michael Atilano, and you are listening to The Starboard. The guest for this episode is Lisa Dietrich, who has a number of singles that she's recently released as a solo artist. Her first single, Costa, and her most recent single, Move Me No Mountain, and their accompanying music videos have garnered significant airplay. Welcome aboard, Lisa. What's the background behind your first single, Costa?
Okay, so I mainly consider myself a writer, arranger, producer. And even though I also was a vocal producer, I wasn't really trying to be an artist because when I first moved here years ago, I learned very quickly that when you are an artist, a new artist on the label, you have zero control over anything. So I was just like, nobody's going to control my music or tell me what songs or, forget being an artist. Let me just write and produce. And maybe years down the road, I'll do an album or something. So it was not in the plan. But what happened was I had taken a break from music and gotten back into it because an iconic person who I won't mention at the moment was in full rehearsal with one of my songs. And that's when I thought, you know what, I think that's the sign. It's time for me to get back into it. So I had met this producer, Tracy Carter, through a dear friend of mine. And at the time, he was Shaka Khan's music director. We had a great meeting. We were going to start writing some original music together. And at that same time, Father's Day was coming up, and I was just like, what am I going to do for my father for Father's Day? So I just happened to hear Costa. I think I had YouTube on and was just listening to videos, and it came on. I never heard it before. After I recorded the song, I found out that it's everybody's favorite Natalie Cole song, and I wasn't even aware of it. When I heard it, it was reminiscent of Sergio Mendes in Brazil 66 to me, which was huge in our house when I was a kid. My dad went to high school with Herb Alpert, so we had all kinds of music, but we especially had lots of Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, Sergio Mendes, the Carpenters, all that. So the song reminded me of Sergio, which was one of my dad's all-time favorites. So I asked Tracy, I said, hey, I know we're about to write some original music, but would you help me knock this song out as a gift for my dad for Father's Day? So he said, well, sure. So we literally knocked it out so quickly. I just sang it down 2 times. Fortunately, between Tracy and I, we brought in some amazing musicians. I had Verdine White on bass, and we just threw it all together. And I gave it to my dad, and then I started to send it to some of my peers because I had been off the grid for so long. And everyone was just losing their minds over this song. And I was like, what is going on? So a dear friend of mine that used to be at Interscope Records back in the day, he was always pushing me to be an artist. Now he's doing independent artist music promotion. So I just sent it to him because he's a friend. And he was just like, oh my God, you have to let me release this song. And just kept on and on with me. And I said, no. And then finally he just, wore me down, and I said, fine, do what you have to do, put the song out, whatever. He said, okay, well, you need a lyric video. And I said, okay. So I threw that together in a week. And the next thing I knew, the song blew up all over the world, and I ended up on a chart in the UK. Shaka Khan was number 1, and I was number 3. I got written up in all these jazz magazines and had 100,000 views on YouTube and 100,000 streams on Spotify within a few weeks. It was just unbelievable. And so that is when I thought, well, let me use this platform now that everyone likes me as an artist to do my original music and get some of that out so people can really hear what I do writing and arranging wise. Costa, it really wasn't a plan. It just kind of happened. It was a happy accident.
Sounds like it happened
organically, just how it all came together. So how did you get started in music? What got you into music initially?
As a kid, I was always singing. I started taking classical piano when I was 6. I took about 9 years of classical piano, and then I was in bands. I played the drums and the flute and the guitar, and although I have to say I never really had the patience to fully master an instrument, singing was really my main thing I would love to do the most. And I just knew I wanted to pursue music. So I came to LA after college, and I got out here and I just started going to gigs and networking and finding people to work with, musically. And I just started hustling and started doing demos and eventually started pitching songs. Because I was a writer, a lot of producers needed writers. So basically I would go in and say, let's just split this song 50-50. A lot of times I would write the lyric and melody first, and then they would put the music underneath it. I don't really want to name drop right now for certain reasons, but I had songs in final piles for some of the most iconic artists in the business. I mean, I'm talking icons, and they were right there. They were in the final pile. I never really found that right person for me to go in and pitch my song. So I was pretty much doing it. And when you deal with song placements, there's all kinds of red tape and this and that. And there's many times where people who had gotten my songs, they really thought this was it. So I would go straight to the record labels and pitch songs too. And people always said to me, they said, Lisa, once one of your songs is gone, they're all going to be gone. Meaning once one of my songs got placed, everyone was going to be coming to me for songs. I just worked with so many fantastic producers. I vocal produced 2 projects on one of DMX's artists, this girl Asia. Those ended up not coming out because she was still in a deal with Rough Riders. And it was just kind of one thing after another, but I think what kept me going is people like Verdine White, who's my very dear friend. Rick James was a very dear friend of mine. And these people of the caliber that they are, when they would introduce me to their peers, they would always compare me to the greatest female songwriters in the history of the world, and I was like, wow. I just felt like things would happen for me at some point, but I left music because, there's a few reasons, but I kind of felt like music was going down the tubes maybe about 12 years ago, and I just felt things were really changing. I also got called in to vocal produce on songs that I did not write. I'm kind of like a director with the Vocalist. I go in there and I just pull vocal performances out of them, and I come up with all the background vocals and the ear candy and all that type of thing. And a lot more auto-tune started to happen, and I work with people who don't need auto-tune. I just need to work with some real vocalists, and I hope I'm not insulting anybody, but that's just where I come from, singing without any assistance on your pitch. So I had so many close calls with incredible stuff, and I just thought, you know what, let me just take a break. And I feel that it's going to happen for me. And then sure enough, several years later, a friend of mine had called me to let me know another incredibly iconic person was in full rehearsal with one of my songs. And that's when I got back in. And then that's when I ended up meeting Tracy, that led to La Costa, which has brought me up till this point with working on my EP.
12 years ago, 2009, everything went down the crapper with the entertainment industry altogether. It wasn't just a strike. Television was tanking. MTV got sold. A lot of things had happened in that time period. Content was changing as well. So I completely understand where everyone was kind of pushed out. Those specific years were a really bad downfall. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but that's when Tonight Show went through their change with Jay Leno and Conan O'Brien, where they promised him a job, and then basically, Jay Leno decided to come back because they canceled the show. And here they built the studio for Conan O'Brien. He was supposed to be the next host, and they totally just scrapped him. And
yeah, it's pretty crazy. The most important thing to me was my musical integrity. And I could have gone and written some crappy stuff. I'm just not going to go and write crap. That's okay for some people, but for me, it has to fill my soul. Otherwise, if it's not filling my soul, then I'm out of here. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I really have a vast catalog of songs, and once I finish this EP, it's all about songs for feature film specifically for me. Set It Off Tonight came to me, and I felt we needed a lift in the world and some happiness and something fun. love the disco era with the instrumentation and the modulation and the quality of all of those recordings from back then. When I decided to really make this project, I went to go see some music friends of mine and went to this nightclub this friend of mine, Dee Prosper, does called Soul in the Horn. And that's what they play, all of that fantastic stuff, you know, like the old Jackson stuff and, you know, just even other more off the grid stuff from the 70s, disco era and all of that. And I was like, wow, this is just so fantastic. You know, the production and all of, you know, the strings and the horns and everything live. And, so when I got back to LA one morning, I just woke up and the whole song came to me. And I just can't tell you how much joy I get when everyone tells me how much they love the song and how much joy it brings them. And they really gravitated towards it. So that was a lot of fun to put that together and see the results.
There's a lot that you said right there that is like putting into words some of the things that make specifically Set It Off Tonight such a great song. I've heard more recent Earth, Wind & Fire albums. When I hear their music, I feel like they were writing Earth, Wind & Fire kind of songs. But when I hear him play on Set It Off Tonight, the way he's playing and the way he's jumping his notes and stuff sounds like classic Verdine White.
Oh, yes, and that's exactly why I wanted him on the song. It's interesting when you start producing, there's so many incredible musicians out there, and versatile musicians too, but then you know there's certain musicians that are going to just nail what you're looking for. I'm very grateful to have Verdine on there, and then Paul Jackson Jr., who's one of the guitarists. He does that big guitar solo in the middle. He played on all of the Michael Jackson hits. I mean, he played on everything, and he's a very good friend of Wayne Lindsey, my co-producer, so he brought him in, and the guitar that he brought in, he was telling you all the Michael Jackson songs that he played that guitar on, so that was pretty exciting. And then Wayne also brought in Stanley Randolph. He's Stevie Wonder's current drummer. He's been with Stevie for years, and Philip Lassiter on horns. He toured with Prince, and Letty Garcia, my percussionist, who's just absolutely fantastic. He's on all of my songs. He just won a Grammy for Lady Gaga's last album, but he's played with from Santana to Barry Manilow to, you know, all over the place. And Lisa Dietrich, the violinist, she's worked with Stevie and with hundreds of incredible artists. Actually, aside from Lisa, there was a full string section. I guess I singled Lisa out. She's also done work on my other songs. We had a full string section at Wayne's house. I remember walking in that day and Wayne had the sheet music all ready to go and all the string players were in the living room all set up and mic'd, and I was just on top of the moon, exhilarated to hear the song come to life with all the live instruments.
When I'm reading the personnel list, it all comes to a head in the music. And so you can hear the Paul Jackson distorted guitar, and it does sound like something you would hear from Thriller or from other previous Paul Jackson recordings. Verdine White, like I said, it sounds like classic Verdine White. You know what it reminds me of? The bass line reminds me of Get Away a little bit. It's just where he just rocks it up. Bad dude, especially in the older Earth, Wind & Fire stuff. His bass playing literally carried a lot of the songs, aside from the band being as awesome as they are, or the personnel that they used to have. On your song, Set It Off Tonight, I don't know how to explain how refreshing it is to hear all these different people that you pulled together showcase themselves as best as possible in their own context on your song, and it all comes together on there, including you. Your vocals and everything that you do are fantastic, and just where your octave range is. Your octave range is pretty good. What are you, 5 octave range?
Yeah, I am 5, and I've never had any training either. Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I think only a few people can do that. Tina Marie and...
Tina. Rick James was one of my dearest friends. I met him when he got out of prison. I can't tell you what a fantastic, wonderful friend he was to me, and he loved my music, and he would always say to me, when are we getting in the studio? When are we getting in the studio? So if he was around now, we would be doing songs for my album. It breaks my heart that he's gone. There's all kinds of stuff out there about Rick and this and that, but I can only talk about the Rick that I knew. He just was the most, absolutely, just the most incredible friend. One day I was at his house, and Tina came over, and he introduced me to Tina, and then he had Tina listen to some of my music on the spot. She just could not be more lovely. I mean, she just really was such a sweetheart. Absolutely terrific.
I've always respected good songwriters, and those two were them. Tina Marie was a fantastic producer, too.
so many people, they just think it's Super Freak, but Rick really, he changed music. He did so much for music going all the way back to Motown, and I'm sure you know his history. He was just extraordinary.
Well, one thing with Rick, too, is he came on record and said that Prince stole his sound. And if you listen to some of Prince's recordings, they're almost parallel with some of the techniques. Like Prince came out with Apollonia 6 and Vanity 6. And then Rick James had the Mary Jane Girls. And if you listen to some of the production similarities, they're pretty close.
It's just crazy. We've lost Prince, Rick, Whitney, Michael. It's just
yeah, and they were
crazy.
supposed to live forever, not go at 50.
That's right. They needed to live forever.
Prince made it to 50. Michael made it to 50. It's just interesting to see how the cookies crumbled. Especially the R&B industry is a lot different than rock and roll. And I'm sure you can agree, it's more of a family. If you met Verdine, you've met Ralph Johnson, and you've met, we can go down the line of all the different names because it is like a family. But rock and roll, you don't know who you're going to run into because it's just so broad. Rock and roll's a little more ear candy, where R&B, it's more of a niche.
People who are not in the business, they can't even begin to understand the pressure. It's sad when some of them are on drugs and
yeah, when you see them deteriorate. Also the health. If it's not one thing, it's another. Some of these artists that I've interviewed, you have people that aren't even any of the original members now using their names.
Wow, yeah.
But more in the R&B industry, I just feel like it was a tougher sell altogether for some of those artists. And when you have superstars like Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston that could sell so many records and be essentially bread and butter on everyone's kitchen table, that's what makes their losses even more so huge because how important they were. We just got off of Christmas, so tell me about Home for the Holidays.
I love the holidays. So I always wanted to write a classic Christmas song. So one day, the whole entire song came to me, which that's kind of how Set It Off Tonight. I wrote the lyric and melody for Set It Off Tonight before the music happened. Home for the holidays. One day I just, I'll be home for the holiday, anyway. So I wrote all the lyrics. I wrote the bridge, the modulation, the whole thing. I love a song to take you on a ride. And I also wanted to paint a picture of why I'm filled with so much joy in the holidays. I just really tried to pull you into the vibe, I had come up with this thing during COVID called #Songs from the Bathtub because, as mentioned, Anthony, who forced me to put out La Costa, he's like, we really need to get on there and sing. When you're in the bathroom or in the bathtub, the acoustics are absolutely fantastic. And I always have candles and some flowers or whatever in my bathroom. So I just started a whole series of songs. So if you were to go to Instagram and put in #Songs in the Bathtub, you'll see all my videos. I'm actually in the bathtub singing, but of course I face the camera towards the ambiance of the flowers and the candle on the other side of the bathtub. And I sang from Elton John to the Carpenters to Anita Baker to Luther Vandross to the Beatles. But I would sing for 60 seconds. And I also enjoy doing it because it's like I do not use auto-tune, people. The only reason I'm bringing that up is because I met this producer actually through Chucky Booker. His name's Magic Mendez, and he is a multi-instrumentalist as well. Incredible producer. He is the music director for The Whispers currently and has written and produced a lot of their songs. So we became Instagram friends, and he would just love my videos. He would say, oh my God, I love your voice. And every single time I would post, he would just be like, oh my gosh. Once I wrote the song, I was thinking, who am I going to bring in on this song to work with me? He's so busy, but I said, hey, listen, I know we've been talking about working together. I've got this song, so I sang the whole song down a cappella on a click track in my studio and sang it down exactly how I wanted it. I sent him the a cappella. He put all the music arrangement under my vocal, and then he sent it back to me. And it was perfect. It was unbelievable, unreal, incredible. And so he played many of the instruments himself. Harvey Mason of Foreplay, the icon Harvey Mason, he's on drums. Now Lisa Donlinger, she's on the strings on that song. Oh, and Ginger also on viola. So they both played on there. And then Tyrone Griffin, he's on horns. Actually, Tyrone's son is Ty Dolla $ign. And Tyrone Griffin toured with Rick James and Tina Marie, speaking of that, on horn, and he did a lot of their horn arrangements. So he's on there. Letty Garcia's on there again. Anyway, pulled in all these wonderful, fabulous musicians again and brought them all in. And then I went in and I re-recorded my lead and I added in all my background vocals. And I also tracked all of Letty's percussion here as well. We had such a blast. He's got all these little tricks up his sleeve. I call him the Gallagher of percussionists because he even creates some of his own instruments that he brought over to create certain sounds on Home for the Holidays. I'm just so tickled with the song because, as mentioned, I always wanted to write one. And again, it says it sounds like a classic, but yet it's new. And Goldmine Magazine, even in their interview, they coined it a classic.
Well, the weather outside is delightful, and the glimmer of the sun makes my heart full. It's my favorite time of year. Trees and houses glisten, and thousands of lights, what a vision when holiday magic appears. Been a long time since we've been together, but you know this change in the weather will always bring me home to you. I'll be home for the holiday. Wouldn't have it any other way. I'll be home.
It brought me so much joy, and it's been such a blast promoting it and getting it out to all the DJs and hearing what they say about the song. It's just been too much fun.
There's so many different sound profiles going on that I don't know if it's smooth jazz, if it's funk. You have a smorgasbord just in one song itself. So it can really be played on any station. Your songs, they're very refreshing to listen to.
I am so grateful. Thank you so much.
Tell me about Move Me No Mountain.
After I released La Costa, my Interscope friend that I keep mentioning, Anthony, he's like, Lisa, you have to keep releasing music. What drew me to La Costa were those background vocals. But same with Move Me No Mountain. The Move Me No Mountain that I covered was the original version that was produced by Barry White with Love Unlimited. When I did record the song, I had no clue it had been remade at all. Once I finished recording it, I see there's Shaka Khan and Dionne Warwick and, on and on, all these people. So I heard the song. I was obsessed with the background vocals. So Chucky Booker's a longtime friend of mine, and he was Barry White's godson. And they were just joined at the hip, those two. I asked Chucky to play bass on the song. Now, the interesting thing is, Chucky told me he was at the original recording session of Move Me No Mountain with Barry White and Love Unlimited, and Glodine, Barry White's wife, is the lead singer of Love Unlimited. So as a kid, there he was in the studio, and here I am asking him to play bass. What are the chances of that? Then he sent a copy of it to Glodine, and she just thought it was absolutely fantastic. So if you can imagine how that made me feel, that she gave it the big stamp of approval, I mean, it was just really terrific.
Just as sure as I live, I will love you alone. You belong in my arms, you belong in my home. Don't expect you to be someone you're not. All I want you to give is all that you got. So move me no mountains, turn me no tides, swim me no ocean, no deep and wide. Just love me, baby, long, strong and true. Move me no mountain to prove that you do. Move me no mountain to prove that you do.
Hubert Laws is on the song. Tyrone Griffin again on horns. 5 days after it was available on Amazon, it was at number 28 out of 100 songs, out of the millions of songs in the world. Then on the 7th day, it was the number 2 selling song on Amazon UK. Then I ended up on 8 different charts. It's just been mind-blowing and such a blessing, and I'm so grateful to everyone, and they've just been so fantastic.
The doors are opening for you. And so that
Yes.
to me, even the interviews that you're going to be doing coming up, I see that you have one with SiriusXM. That's huge. So tell us about your animation.
ever since I was a kid. I just love animation. And when I wrote Set It Off Tonight, I came up with the whole entire concept of the Set It Off Tonight video, which initially I wanted either like a Jetsons vibe or remember the old Jackson 5 cartoons? It took me a year and a half to find the right animator. I just wanted to have some fantastic quality of animation. We worked for 7 months on this animated video. Verdine's on a comet flying through the sky with his bass and, all this stuff. It's such a blast. It won awards all over the world for best music video and for animation at film festivals and music video competitions. And I just wanted to provide quality to go along with my song. My animator, she's so fantastic. We just collaborated incredibly well, and it came out better than I ever could have imagined it because I was so fortunate to find, an animator of her talent and being able to bring everything to life and all these things. So there's an animated video for that. And then we came up with a whole entire story for Home for the Holidays, which the artwork looks similar because those two songs were coming out so close together. I wanted to carry that theme through just for that next song. So the character, me, is in a rocket sleigh with a sidecar, which is my pit bull Coco that passed away 6 years ago that was the love of my life, and he's in the sidecar. Then I found a different animator for Move Me No Mountain. I wanted a completely different vibe. We came up with this, whole 60s, 70s vibe to capture the essence of the single, and that's been really fun too. And she's also working on my January release, which that song is going to sound nothing like anything I put out. It's way more on the jazz tip. It's sexy, sassy, lots of instrumentation. It's a lot of fun.
The Move Me No Mountain artwork is very similar to Jimi Hendrix. It looks like the Access Bold as Love album cover, kind of, which is like similar color concept. Like it's nothing like that.
I've never seen it before. I'm going to have to check it out now.
So tell us about any upcoming live performances or any plans for that.
As I mentioned, I'm kind of an under the radar type of person, and because I didn't expect this whole artist thing to do what it is doing, I really never planned on performing. So I just don't know. Maybe it'll happen at some point. My friends who've been on tour for years, they said, Lisa, when you get with the live band, it's going to be over for you. You're going to want to be on that stage performing your songs and, all these things. And so I just don't know. I don't have any plans for the immediate future, but you never know what will happen down the road. But I will absolutely let you know if these things change.
Lisa, I just want to thank you for joining me on the Starboard. Everyone look up Lisa Dietrich on Facebook and like and subscribe to her page. Also look up Lisa Dietrich on YouTube and subscribe to her YouTube channel. There you'll find her recently released singles and the accompanying music videos, which I'm sure everyone will be delighted to see. You have been listening to The Starboard with guest Lisa Dietrich. To find out more about the Starboard podcast, look me up on Facebook. That's Dockmaster Mike on Facebook, and there you can find links to our guest and to our past podcast episodes.